What's up, world? It's your boy Ty. As you listen to the CD, I'm gonna pay homage to all the men and women that came before me.
What's the deal, everybody? This is your boy Cool Ty coming back at you one more time. We are back in, we're actually not back in, but we are in Atlanta or close to Atlanta, Stone Mountain, Georgia today, my old stomping grounds when I was at Morris Brown College.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
We are with the folks of Uptown Chronicles. We have Steve and Alonge here.
Yes,
I
sir.
want to say before we even get started, thank you, gentlemen, for joining me, and I appreciate it. And to all of those out there, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Also, we're going to put their information throughout the interview so you guys can share, like, subscribe, follow these gentlemen and their creative company as they move through this process of creating great comic books. I also want to remind everybody, it is August, and we are a few months from November. And we all know November is the time to vote. And we all understand that in order for us to have our voices heard, everybody needs to go out and vote. Not just you, please take your 18-year-old cousins, sisters, nieces, whatever you have is, make sure your family members go and vote. Please don't listen to the whole thing of our vote doesn't count. That's a lie. If it did, a whole bunch of black people wouldn't have been murdered trying to get the right to vote, trying to stop them from voting. So we got to remember, hands down, no matter which political party you vote for, I hope you're voting for not one of them, but no matter who you vote for, please remember to register and go and vote. And remember, hit up, I think it's voting.com or voting.org, and you can see when all your states voting deadlines and guidelines that you need to vote. Some people can register up to the day of voting. Some people have to do it 2-3 weeks. Remember, there will be Saturday voting as well. So it is very important that we keep voting. And as you know, I'm very politically minded. We need to make sure we vote for the better party. Unfortunately, Republicans ain't it, my man, but that's just my little opinion. Anyway, we're going to get this thing moving right now. We're going to introduce you guys to the Uptown Chronicles. I'm going to have them do some introductions because they were new for me. And you guys know what I like to do. I like to go out and find independent creators, people who are putting out really good work. And I have issue number 1. I've read it. I really enjoyed it. Sets it up extremely perfectly for the next issue. Issue 2 is on its way. And I'm actually supporting these guys, and I'm going to keep buying these books. So, ladies and gentlemen, these are the men of Uptown Chronicles. Gentlemen, thank you, and thank you, and thank you for joining us.
No, thank you for having us, man. We truly appreciate the review. We truly appreciate the opportunity to come and chop it up with you, man, and talk to the people a little bit more about the Uptown Chronicles. My name is Steven Goard. I am the creator of the Uptown Chronicles, and I'll let my man go ahead and introduce himself as well.
My name is Alonge Hawes. I am the co-executive producer for Uptown Chronicles. I'm also the writer and also the co-director.
And what you guys might not have known, that Alonge Hawes is actually the great-grandson of Rodney Barnes' flagship superstar title, Nita Hawes' Nightmare blog. So we're going to chop it up with him a little bit like that. Now, I'm just joking, but I got you for a minute, didn't I? I got you for a minute. Y'all thought it was right?
I was like, that wasn't in the family bio, but okay. Okay, I'll take it.
No, I'm just joking, but, that was a cool thing. So let's talk about Uptown Chronicles, man. This is a great family book. It's more than just a family book. It's a big family book. Like, most people stop at a daughter and a son. It's a big family book. They have a whole lot of different avenues these guys are going into.
Oh, true.
So how did you guys come up with such an amazing, but it's also very entertaining, and it helps you dive into the story? How did you guys come up with this?
Well, I'm going to be honest with you, man. This is actually roughly kind of based off of my family. So I have a large family. My wife and I have been married for 9 years. We have 5 beautiful children. And, it's kind of an amalgamation of all the things, with a large family, there's always action and things going on in the household. And I can't recall how many times I would say, we honestly need to be a show or something with all this stuff that's going on in the home. And, it's also an opportunity to tell our stories in a different way, man. In my mind, originally when I concepted the idea, we all grew up on the Cosby Show, and for me, that was kind of the largest anchor, just because we don't have any content that's out right now that showcases our family dynamics in a positive way, gives us things to look towards when we're building our families. So much of what we've gone through is a broken family structure, disjointed, fathers not being around, mothers carrying the burden. So much of what we understand about families has been distorted, especially within the Black family.
Mhm.
So, the Cosby Show was the first anchor. The Boondocks was our second anchor. That being an iconic, just animated series, and
Yeah.
just to be honest with you, that animated this is the actual animated series that we're pitching right now.
Mhm.
This comic book was created as a way for us to familiarize our audience and our supporters with the story of the Uptown Chronicles, and then of course our last anchor would be Black Panther. You take all those and smash them all into one, and that's what you have is the Uptown Chronicles, which is, essentially following a family. I'm originally from Chicago, so this is based in Chicago in the year 2100, and it's a coming of age story for everybody involved. I think recognizing all the different positions, being the oldest, the middle child, the youngest. There's stories that come with all of those, and when I originally came up with the idea, of course I'm not a writer, when it comes to TV and film, but I came down to Georgia as an MC. So, I have some background in writing verses, but I wanted to find someone who could tell this story, so the original outline, backgrounds, and all of that I created for the dynamics, for the characters. But, knowing that I wanted to build a team and a family that could really be cohesive with this entire project, I started to kind of reach out to people. And my next door neighbor actually knows Alonge. And so
Mhm.
as I'm talking to him about this idea, I'm like, man, I got this idea. And, I tell people all the time, I'm one of those folks, when I get excited, man, it's hard for me to contain myself. So
I
I'm
feel you,
constantly
man. I
talking
feel
about
you.
it, and so he's like, man, I know this guy. Actually, we were in the service together. I'm actually the reason he got into the service. His name is Alonge. Let me reach out to him and see if he might be interested in this. I don't know if he's ever worked on animation before. So I said, okay, cool. So he shot me his information. I reached out to Alonge. And man, I shared with him all the stuff, and it was kind of history from there, man. We've been connected, and this brother's basically family at this point. So he he comes over, and he'll literally be around the fam, and he'll kind of watch our interactions and dynamics. So a lot of what you see going in here is really authentic to just the interactions that we have within the family. But and I'll let Alonge go ahead and kind of jump into
Yeah.
his part of the story and how he came in, man. But that's originally how we got started.
That's what's up, man. And then before I let Alonje jump in, I do want to give a fact because I actually just published my first children's book, and it's called Daddy Do Right. And I use
Nice.
the artist Willie Corday. And something you said I want to hit on when you mentioned, the structure of the Black family and Black fathers.
Mhm.
That narrative, as we've been lied to about that narrative, right? It is
Oh
it
yeah.
is well over 60, 70% where more Black fathers will be eating with their children, doing their homework with their children, going to the park with their children. So this is another narrative, and which is something that I picked up in this book, which is why I like Fantastic Four and Justice League, because they have that family structure. This
Yeah.
is another narrative that says this is something that's always been going on. We just want to publicize it. So, and I appreciate you with doing it, my man. I appreciate it greatly. Mr.
Absolutely.
Lonje, what's the haps, my man?
Hey. So yeah, basically, so for the last 8 years, I myself have been a filmmaker, writer, director. It just one day in 2016, I just turned on the TV, and I'm a huge cinema fan. I'm a huge lover of prestige television, and I was literally flipping channels, and every single depiction of black men, it was the same thing. It's either drug dealer, drug addict, going to jail, coming out of jail, pimp, something of that nature. And
Yeah.
I said to myself, I said, this isn't this isn't the reality that I live in, and the black community and the black men that I surround myself with. And so, instead of waiting for someone to create what I would like to see, I decided that I was just going to do it myself. And so from there, I created my very first web series. It was called Blue Collar Hustle. And it was about four black men in Stone Mountain who come together to create their own business, which is a record company. And that ran for 2 seasons across several different platforms. Then after that, I created a show called Black on Both Sides, which really was an exploration of code switching in the black community and across the diaspora, and what we, as African Americans especially, feel like we have to do in order to move up in certain businesses and in certain parts of society. And after that, I started work on a series called Silver and Gold, which I just finished. And around that time, that's when I got the call. Shout out to Sergeant Edwards. I got the call that my man Steven was working on something in animation. And, I've always wanted to work in animation. And I felt that, later on down the line in my career, I would do that because I know that animation is a really big undertaking. But with meeting with Steve and, he gave me the pitch and really, man, I was like, I told him before, I was like, you had me at Kids with Superpowers. I said, okay, we can make that happen. And
Right.
he had an initial outline, he had the characters. And I just told him, look, I can make this an actual series. I said, I can write this out. We did a pilot deal at first where I wrote the first episode. And I said, look, if you like it, then we'll go ahead and I'll do the rest of it. So we wrote the first script. It came out well. And yeah, the rest is history. Here
That's
we
an
are.
understatement. That's an understatement,
That's
brother.
cool, man. Go ahead.
It came out magnificent. I'm like, okay, you got to be on board for the whole thing, brother, because the way listen, we'll get into it, but I promise you, the storytelling is really what brings this to life, man. And Alonge is just skilled beyond belief at bringing these characters to life in a way that really depicts Black families in a positive and entertaining light that I think we can all embrace. And
Man, that is so cool. So, while I was at Morris Brown, which is, I also merged it over with Clark Atlanta.
Okay.
I was a film student, that had the same professors that Spike Lee had, Dr. Eichelberger and all those folks over at
Nice.
Clark Atlanta. And I focused in as well on writing, and I usually say I follow the story.
Yeah.
This is a story that I could absolutely follow because, as you were mentioning, the Cosby Show, which is actually back on TV, I was shocked to find out it does have that portrayal of we are all working together and everybody has something positive to say, and it's not showing that negative side, which gets depicted too much.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So, how did you come up with your bad guy?
The interesting thing about Victor, and it's so much to this story again that I think until we're really getting this series in front of people, man, they will. There's a lot to when it comes to a villain, man. A villain is a human, right? Like you don't come out like that. And so I think there's the humanity that we wanted to bring to this guy, as well as understanding like when you are given a set of circumstances that you have to grow through and you kind of end up choosing a different path than most, you still connect with him as a human being, but you also are kind of entertained by his own personal journey to try and find where power comes from. So this is again, just I think this villain is a depiction of all of us, in a sense, because I think we all have shadow sides that, we often don't try our best to identify with, but, Victor is the best that he can be with what he was dealt. You know what I mean?
Right,
and
right.
if that makes him a villain, so be it. You know what I mean? But yeah.
The best villains are the ones that see themselves as the hero.
Yeah.
And with Victor, the idea was, try not to give too much away. But the idea was what happens when someone who is brilliant in their own right, what happens when that brilliance is twisted and corrupted and you feel as if you have to be better than everybody in order to prove yourself to everybody.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the arc that we go through with Victor that I think the audience will really see. And again, when we think about the best villains or when you think about the best anti-heroes, they call them nowadays,
Right.
they're the ones that even though you may not agree with what they're doing, you understand why they're doing it.
Right. You may not like how they go about the path that they take to get there. Very similar to, Killmonger in Black Panther. You may not figure it, you may like that path, but what he's saying is true. Like we all join this side. Yeah, look how people have been oppressed. Let's take all of this great technology and take it out to the world and stop the oppression so we can live our best lives. So Dad, would you say the kids would say that's their personalities within the story? You're 5?
Oh,
or is that you thinking that's how they may turn out later on?
No. These and there's something funny. I'm gonna let Alonge allude to this part, man. But I will tell you that there's a lot about all of these characters, and of course, again, I'm a voice actor by profession, and so I took this as an opportunity to voice the dad.
Right.
Also giving an opportunity to showcase what I can do as a voice actor, but also when looking at the children, I was completely inspired by every little ounce of their personalities on the things that they embody in the characters in this, in the series. So yeah, I mean, a lot, of course, I mean, there's some embellishment, but outside of that, there's so much that I think is very relatable to all of my children, and they're excited about it. They knew from the beginning, when I first told them we were going to create this series and these characters are going to be based on them, no one was like, oh, dad, no, don't do that, but I let them see the initial kind of storyline outlines, things like that. And they were all really excited. But yeah, these are actual depictions in a lot of ways of every last one of them.
Yeah, my two daughters are actually on the cover of my children's book, and the ones are throughout it. So, they were very excited once we finally published it and did our signing at Barnes and Noble in different places. They were like, "Oh, wow, this is like, Dad, I remember you working on this book for so long, and now it's actually in print."
Yeah, man, it's a beautiful thing to see them see themselves in these characters and be inspired by it.
Yeah. Alonge, how much of what you saw as you watched the children do their thing on a daily basis, kind of like a camera without having the camera, right? How did you take that and morph that into their personalities? Did you see certain things that like, ooh, that I could write that?
Yes. No. There will literally be times from the day we started and up until today. There'll be times when I'll be hanging around him and his family because I have a 9-year-old daughter myself, and my daughter and his two youngest children are really good friends. So we're always hanging out, we're always around each other, and there'll be moments when he's talking to his kids, or there'll be moments where he's talking to his wife, and I'll just look at him and I'll be like, that's going in the script, right? Like, there's literally actual lines of dialogue that I lifted specifically straight from conversations that he and his family have had and that the children have had and things of that nature. And that just adds, the element of realness to it, of authenticity, So absolutely, I would honestly say, even though that this is really, steeped in like fantasy and science fiction, the family aspect of it is about 75% on point. And like Steve, there's some embellishment for entertainment purposes, but really, I really think that we nailed the family dynamic. And again, in a way that we use the Cosby Show as our North Star.
Right.
So I wanted to make sure that I was doing something, and that with these characters, I wanted to treat these characters almost as if they were our children.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to, I wanted to be able to encourage them. I wanted to put them in situations where their integrity was still in place. I wanted to put them in situations where you yourself might have been when you were 14, 13, 12, 11, things of that nature. So for me, it was really just all about making sure that the voices were authentic to the characterization.
Yeah, because I like to follow the writer, right? And so I've critiqued two books as of maybe the last month, right? This one being highly well written, on target, like I can see the thought process. I can see how you put your writer's voice in that, right? So as people want to get more of your writing, what would you say why they should pick up your writing? What's that piece, that bridge, that linchpin that says once you pick this piece up, this is what you're going to dive into when you see my words on that page?
What you're getting yourself into really is you're getting yourself into a world that is relatable. Even though it's set in the future and it's set in a time period where, science fiction and technological advancement, has become kind of like the norm. It's still a human story at heart. And for me as a writer, I want to get into the humanity of any type of character, any type of situation, that I'm writing about. For me, the writing always comes first. It's the most important thing in anything that you do. You can have a great cast, you can have a $1 billion budget, but if the writing isn't solid, your project isn't going to be solid. So when you pick something that was written by Alonge Hawes, that the authenticity of the human characters, I've done my research, but I've also lived enough life and I've also seen enough to know that I can blend all these things together and create something that's entertaining.
Yeah. So Steve, you being the dad, are you a big tech fan? Are you techie? Is that what you did? Okay.
I am. I was a web developer and graphic designer for 20 years prior to going full time as a voice actor. So that's really my background. Dre in the story itself, as well as Maya, the mom, they're also entrepreneurs. And that's another aspect of it that, has been a part of my life, for quite some time. So absolutely, tech is, I'm a nerd, man. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a creative.
Yeah.
at heart, and I'm a musician. You know, I'm someone who creating is my happy place, and that's just the bottom line. You know, whether it's tech or actual art. You know,
I totally get it. Listen, man, from one MC to the next, my man. What you writing currently, and where can we listen to it?
I'm gonna be real with you, man. So this is why I'm a voice actor now. So I do a lot of freestyling, but I don't do a lot of music in the booth anymore for putting it out. You know, so I entertain my kids. I rap to them all the time. You know, that's just what it is, and I'll probably never stop doing that. But
so I do that to my kids. I even got them on a song, right? What are your kids thinking about? Dad put me in a book and this is him. Like, he's a voice actor. I've heard him do things.
Yeah.
How was that pride on your shoulders come across?
Never gets old, man. It never gets old. I mean, even from the first time they heard one of my commercials, I just so happened to be, I don't know if you've ever had Starry Soda. It's a new soda by Pepsi, and it replaced Sierra Mist. Well, I happen to be the voice of the limb for Starry Soda.
Okay.
So that was one of the very first things that I think they really were able, because they played an ad during the Super Bowl with Ice Spice. And of course, with my kids being that age, they knew who Ice Spice was.
Man.
And all of that.
Yeah,
right.
So
they went nuts. And it was a moment, but it just never gets old. And again, you know, what I have the most pride about, man, is just them, the pride that I see them have in these characters and what it means to them, you know, and even especially the little ones. You know, they walk around, I think, you know, between Alonge's daughter, my two little ones, them being the youngest of all the clan, they do the best promotion of everything, and they're the most proud of all of it, you know. And it's just like, that will never get old, man. And I think as they continue to grow, the goal is for, you know, us all to grow from seeing these characters and being able to relate to the stories that they go through.
Right.
And I do want to give a shout out before we get too far into it, man, because, you know, in talking about the art and talking about creativity, the person who actually did the drawing for this and art illustrator for our comic, Patrick King, he's actually a childhood friend of mine. He was the OG when I was a young cat and the first MC, believe it or not. So he was doing the producing and he had all the equipment, and I was a young dude in high school and he was more of a senior, and, you know, I was looking up to him, but he's always had Marvel level drawing ability. And so Alonge and Patrick were the first two people that I actually brought on when I wanted to make this thing come to life. And I can't say enough about how Patrick really brought these characters to life with his art.
Yeah. I can definitely say, even in my review of it, man, I said the art matches the writing. I mean, it goes hand in hand. Yeah. And yes, Patrick, my man, whenever you get a chance, we definitely need to get you on this call as well at some point. But going back to how the writing and the art, they match together, they merge. You said this is kind of the intro to a series.
Yes.
How long have you been working on this series?
Oh man, it's been about 2 years now, brother.
Yeah.
It's been about 2 years. You know, we were tossing around the original idea of series, you know, movie, but for me, and what I would like to see for this entire you know, kind of ecosystem we've created is longevity, man. You know, in my eyes, the Cosby Show held such a place in our hearts because of how long it was around and how many people were influenced by it in such a positive way. And so that longevity that show had is what we hope to bring to this series. And so we decided to make it a series as we were creating this, and that was where the anchor really started. Cool. The comic was a way for us to continue to build and feed our fan base, because right now we're independent, right? We produced a trailer. This gives people an idea of what this entire series is about. However, we have yet to be picked up. So we're pitching actively to networks, finding ways to gain visibility for this, and aligning with people who see the vision of what this really truly is and how far it can go. With that being said, you know, started out as and still is an animated series that we're pitching, but this comic gives us the ability to continue to storytell and introduce people to this world we've created.
Yeah, it's, you know, that kind of reminds me of the story, the TV series called about the young boy who gains the powers. Michael B. Jordan is his father.
It was on Netflix. Yes. On Netflix.
Whereas that dude had one book. And I believe the process was what you're doing. He was pitching an idea. He had the one book. Then it immediately became a TV series. Not Isaiah. What's the name of that? I can't think of it. But anyway, it'll come to us. Watch, it'll come to us. Okay, so
it was good.
It was very good. I watched both series. So we saved the best for last. I'm gonna give both of y'all a chance to slow down and take a minute because we all married men. We're gonna now talk about the mother in the story. And she's 75% real life, man. I'm telling you, Alonge,
Raising
you better be
Dion, that's what it
careful, my
was.
man. You better be
Yeah,
careful because
raising
she gonna
Dion.
watch this. So how how did you merge her to being a very loving, supportive character? She is. I'm looking at that Claire Huxtable, right? And
Yep.
I was just watching some episodes of the Cosby the other day, and it reminded me, it was the episode where she had been working all day. She came home, she's very tired, she couldn't get a moment's rest. And it just reminded me just how pivotal her being a lawyer is, kind of like how pivotal it was for us to see the kids at Hillman College, right? How that
Yeah.
changed everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is Mrs. I'm gonna say it right. Is it Goard?
Hamilton.
Is Mrs. Goard very similar?
Oh.
Like is she right on target with what's in the comic?
Oh yeah, in a big way.
Now remember, she's gonna be watching this.
Oh, for sure. Listen,
No,
no
that's
punches
the
pulled,
queen.
no
That's the
punches
queen.
pulled.
That's the queen.
The queen, absolutely. No, without question, and we'll dive in a little bit deeper into that because just to be 100% honest with you, man, you know, my wife, she actually works in the tech industry too, and she's in a position where she is the only Black woman at the height of where she is working with majority white males, and her above the people that she typically has to answer to are the CEOs, the VPs, and that's when things go down, she's on call. You know, so the gist of this is Black women in positions where they're constantly trying to have their voice heard, where they're constantly having to prove themselves in the presence of others who have the same, if not less, qualifications. You know, that's this Maya is the representation of not only my wife, but so many Black women who hold down the fort at home,
Yep.
especially now have full-time jobs,
Yep.
and they are looked to be the softness and looked to be the matriarchs of our families and the ones the glue that holds it together. So Maya had to embody all of that, and my wife absolutely does. And you know, I always, you know, I want to say I blush a little bit when my man, he always says, man, y'all are my favorite couple. And I'm like, you know, I appreciate that because in all honesty, I'm very blessed to have my wife on my side. She's supportive, you know, and as a Black man, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. It's this is a different day and age when it comes to marriage. And just to be 100%, this is my second marriage, right? So my wife and I have been married for 9 years. So when it comes to trying to find cohesiveness and support within the family, when you have those dynamics of a full-time working mom, full-time working dad, it's hard to blend and it takes work.
Yeah.
So to have a woman of that caliber by my side who also does what she does in the home, man, listen, it doesn't get any better than that. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I would concur with my wife. Second marriage as well.
Yeah.
And my wife is Stella. She works her butt off at work, comes home, and I'm like, hey, just sit back. She's actually working on her PhD right now. So I'm like, you don't got to worry about nothing. You got to worry about cooking or you're fine. I'll come home from my day. You sit down and work. I'll take care of it. Yeah. So that's good. So how many issues are you guys planning on taking this? And I know you're still actively shopping it around. Did you guys come up with a number when you're going to stop? Because again, you want it to be that series, or do you do kind of like the Mark Millar way, where he just tells these stories and stops, and there's the series and take it, and he tells the next series?
You know, I think we're still kind of tossing it around, but I'll say this in our minds when we talked about it, you know, having this to accompany our series is, I think, ideal. But we also want to listen to the supporters, the people who are really actively supporting what we're doing and what they would like to see, because I think at the end of the day, the people who are supporting you are the ones that you really have to, you know, give to. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good. So I have issue 1. I know issue 2 is coming out.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about some of the action and the tech action. How is this tech action and the fighting going to pump up as we move along? I guess that's you, Alonge.
Yes, sir.
Oh yeah. So when one of the first conversations that myself and Steven had was when I was writing the script, I said, okay, this is going to be animated and it's going to be a technologically advanced version of the society that we live in today. And so I asked him, how crazy can I go? You know, like how
Your eyes got big. You're like, wait a minute, I
so
got
I
some
was like,
ideas.
okay. 'Cause I was like, we can do this a couple different ways. You can uncage me and let me go stupid, or because we're talking about budgets and things like that.
Yeah.
I can hold back a little bit, and we can kind of just make this, a little bit less technologically advanced, but still tell a good story. And Steve was like, "Oh no, go nuts, do what you want to do."
Yeah, man.
So
We
yeah,
got
from
something to
that point, I said, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." So as far as the action is concerned, at the end of the first issue, and again, not trying to give away too many spoilers, but at the end of the first issue, we kind of see what the main antagonist, how he's going to go about getting what he wants to get, right? And as the children, as their powers start to formulate, they're going to have to, they're going to have to face that enemy, and I'm just really, really excited for the audience to see how the kids work together.
Yeah.
Because really, it's a family, and for me, it's about togetherness. So I would love to, I would love the audience to really see, like, how the Cosby kids would come together and they would come up with a scheme on, oh, how are we going to get over on mom and dad?
Right.
Yeah.
How am
Yeah.
I going to get the shirt? How am I going to go to the concert? They would always kind of like work together.
Hmm.
So in this one, the idea was to show them working together as a family unit and using their powers, for good to kind of, protect the city. So I'm really, really excited for that. Like I said, I can't give away too much, but I will say this. The character Tasha, she ain't no joke. Tasha,
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
Tasha ain't no joke.
And
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, and I was just, it's hard to not give away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I-
listen, we're not going to give away any spoilers. We need everybody to hook up with these brothers on IG. You'll see their information down here.
Yes, sir.
Order yourself some. Listen, price point is great. $7 a book. Price point is absolutely great. It's a sweet spot. Don't get me wrong. I know some people are selling for 10, 12. I get it. But that below 10, that sweet spot of 7 is perfect. Get yourselves issue 1 and 2. And I promise you, you will not be dissatisfied. You will be happy. They could have given you a money back guarantee and you'd be like, I'll buy 3 more. It was still gone. But go ahead, my man. Go ahead, Steve.
I appreciate that. No, I mean, I think just at this point, just knowing that, there's so many nuggets in here, I think that different people for different reasons will gravitate to, but there's a twist, because I'm trying to find a way to say this without getting it's there's just some unexpected things that will happen within the family, and I think in saying that this is a coming of age story, I think the story of a lot of young Black men will also be felt in here, as well as a lot of young women who are given so much to deal with at a young age and having to worry about strength and being perceived a certain way. What does that mean? How do I navigate life with these things that I'm thinking now? And where's my place?
Yeah.
And all of us trying to find our place. And so I'll leave it there, man. But there's a lot to be.
No,
had.
that's totally that's right on target, man. Next week I'm actually heading out to JMU up in Fredericksburg. I'm taking my daughter to college. It'll be her freshman year.
Oh,
And
nice! Congratulations, brother.
Thank you. My oldest is here at Morgan State. She's
I know
now going
that's
to be
right.
she's going to be a junior. She's at Morgan State up in Baltimore.
That's what's up.
Yeah, having those family dynamics, those coming of age stories where the kids are kind of figuring out who they are.
Yeah.
Another story that, and I'm sure you're watching it, Ayanu, that's already aired on.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Unique Studios, I was up on them. I have to get those guys in an interview. Great story. The comic book was also really good.
Yeah.
There was a coming of age there, and I'm guessing as you're talking about, she's the oldest daughter that we're talking about. Am I correct?
Yeah, Tasha's
Yes.
the oldest.
Tasha.
Yeah.
As she moves through this, and we're not going to give anything away. She gonna put the hammer down. I'm guessing that's what you're telling me.
Without giving spoilers, you are in the right
area.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Steven, how did you come up with? How much of the design for the city, the aircrafts, their gadgets? How much did you guys collaborate on that, or was it left up to my man Patrick?
Well, before I brought the idea to everybody, I mean, I really went through, and again, I have an art background. So coming up with the kind of initial sketches for each of the characters, obviously knowing my family's background, like, I mean, and I took a stab at writing an initial, what I call the script, and I was corrected very. He
My
was,
man,
I sent it to
Alonge's like,
Alonge.
wait a
He's like,
minute, that ain't we
yeah,
we
he
we
was
call
like,
it something.
yeah, my man, this is good. I see what you're doing. It's not quite a script. It's more of an outline,
It was an outline, right?
I thought
It
because
was
I
an
had
outline.
dialogue in there, like, yeah, I got a script, like. But I still wanted to give him enough that he could really bring this to life with what was inside of my head, right?
Right.
But so I had the initial sketches, the family backgrounds, like I tried to package it so it was enough to give to someone so they can take it and do what they do best. I trust all of the creatives that I've brought onto this project to do what they do best. And so giving Alonge, giving Patrick the freedom, you know what I mean, to embrace their craft, because everyone involved in this entire project, man, is just in love with what they do. And that's what inspires me, brother, because this is like, I've known Patrick for so long. Meeting Alonge, I feel like I've known him for so long. His dad is from where I'm from originally. You know what I'm saying? So we even found ways that we connected in ways that we didn't even know. And so I think just trying to give a package that made it easy for each person to do what they do best was my goal. So yeah, I took a lot of time to kind of create the world, the city. I had an idea of what I wanted the city to look like. And of course, like I said, it's my hometown, man. I'm from Chicago, born and
Right.
raised. I moved out here in Atlanta, I think it might have been 98. You know what I mean? And
So
that was
that's when
chasing
I
the
left.
music.
That's
Right. Like, and I came down here chasing a music career.
right.
I grew up on 71st and South Shore around Common Sense. And,
Mhm.
I was a backpack cat. So coming down here, I mean, this was the hub for music at that time,
Yeah.
but I couldn't find anybody who could do the type of stuff that I was doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Right.
I
Right.
became a producer by default.
Yeah.
I was an MC, and that was always, but being in the studio was my thing, man. So it was
Yeah.
kind of like finding ways to elevate my craft and do something new, but feeling like I can create, and that's really what this was.
Yeah, my homeboy John, who was at Morris Brown with me, he was from Chicago. He actually turned me on to Common.
Oh
I've
yeah,
always been
Opposite
big
city,
into
yeah.
into KRS-One and Poor Righteous Teachers, and
yeah.
when he turned me on the Common, man, I was like, whoa, this is
Yeah.
something else.
Bruh, man, that man lived right up the street. Right
Yeah.
up the street. So it was crazy. He used to drive an old Diamante I see riding up and down. And it's funny, when you're young and your heroes and things like that, you get to see them up close and you don't realize how much trajectory they're gonna have later in life. And this is like, man, I remember just being this
Yeah,
close to them, and
that's
but
cool.
yes,
So we were talking about the tech and how you designed it.
yep.
Uh, Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it just essentially looking at Chicago, we wanted it to be real, right? Still tangible and feel like it, the year 2100 is honestly not that far away.
Not at all.
And as Alonge, rooted hinted to, we're living in the times of, the technological age as we speak, and it just continues to evolve quickly. So we wanted that urban feel, but it still needed to feel like we've advanced in some ways with some of the ways the buildings and things like that looked. We wanted it to feel futuristic without feeling out of touch.
Right.
And that was the goal.
Okay.
And trying to create that environment.
So the bracelets. How did you guys come in? That's a really cool thing, right? So when I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of like the witchblade type, the symbol type thing. Was that some history you wanted to bring in? And again, no spoilers, because again, this is a really early story, right? So everybody out there, this is a great jumping on point, right? Because you can get on at the onset, and I'm telling you, you're going to really be able to dive into this story, even just down to issue number 1. And this is one of those things where those big companies, they would spend a lot of money getting a creative team to join it, and we have it right here. So is there going to be more history about, and I'm giving it away a little bit, but Dale can get it. Is there going to be a little bit more history about this very important bracelet?
Oh yeah. I'll let Alonge speak to that, man. But I'll say this definitely, and I'm glad that you see the significance of the bracelets early on. But yeah, go ahead, my man.
So with the bracelets, the idea behind the bracelets are we wanted the family to have some type of physical connection to the heritage that is what gifts them their powers. And again, without getting too deep into spoilers, they're very important. And yes, we will be diving into the history, their importance, why they're so important, and what the connection is, not just with the family, but also with Victor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Victor's robot, would it be safe to say he's going to get a little angry later
It would be safe to say
that
and
that
when
may
we
be an
had this,
understatement a little
yeah,
bit.
when me and Steven, again, when we sat down and Steven gave me the outline and everything that he had, he already had the entire the main characters. He already had all the main characters and things of that nature. And so my job was to just, kind of build out the world and come up with some ancillary characters. And Neocron was one of those characters. I'm a huge anime fan. I love anime, and I'm a huge mecha anime fan.
Yeah, me
So
too, man.
yeah, okay, I see you. So Neocron, the robot, is my love letter to my childhood watching Evangelion, Mobile Suit Gundam,
Mm-hmm.
Gurren
Yeah.
Lagann, so many mecha anime that I love. And so yeah. So that was just me paying homage. And then also I wanted to show that Victor is technologically advanced, but he also has an ego. And so the robot Neocron is a extension of his ego, you know.
Yeah.
And yes, yeah. So yeah. You'll be seeing, yeah, he gets down. You'll be seeing
Yeah, I when I
Yeah.
when I originally was reading it, it made me go back to I think it was called Transor Z or Metzinger Z, where the
Uh,
ship
Oh
landed
wow,
in the guy's
yes,
head.
yes,
So that's
yes,
kind of where it took me, and then it also took me to The Incredibles, the
yes.
second movie. I can't remember. Maybe it was the first or
yeah.
second movie.
Yeah.
As a screenwriter, because you're writing a script for a TV show, a series, a movie eventually, are you thinking of these things ahead of time to make sure that you touch on them in the book to remind you of what's going to come later on in the bigger script for the screenplay or for the TV show scripts?
Well, so the first episode screenplay was already finished. It's done. So what I was doing with the comic is I'm really just adapting my own screenplay. So Neocron was created again. I can't get too much into to deep spoilers, but Neocron was created for a specific purpose.
Right.
Created for a specific purpose, and you will see and continue to see when we get picked up and you see the series, you'll continue to see his importance.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So will there be another book creative idea coming from the Uptown Chronicles? Will there be another series, two series, or another title in general?
Oh man, we've got so much planned, and the funny thing about it is, I knew from the onset how impactful this was going to be. It's not a question of if; it's just a question of when. And I think us being diligent about working on our passion for these characters and this
Mhm.
story is going to show. At the end of the day, I think just allowing this to continue to develop and being open but having a very clear idea on what we see this being is how we wanted to start this off. So it's always been this was going to be a series, and of course, if we get the opportunity to adapt it to the big screen, we're ready for that. But we have 2 seasons essentially ready to go.
Mhm.
Our first one having 8 episodes, our very first episode basically being about 45 to about 50 minutes or so. So that in and of itself can stand alone in helping to really introduce people into this world. But yeah, we've got a lot of stuff in store for this entire series, man.
Yeah.
That's good. What's your excitement about this series or what's to come, Alonge?
Oh man. My excitement, honestly, I'm really excited for the audience to really get to know again the characters. Like I said, there's a lot of heart with these characters, and I'm really excited for them to get to know the entire family and get to know the family dynamics, and then also really ready for them to kind of delve into the world that we've created. The world that we've created and everything around it. I think we've got some really interesting ideas that we're putting forth. And I think we've got some really fun stuff in store, for the audience. So
Okay.
that's really what makes me excited for them to actually get to see all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in order for them to get to see it, they got to know that it's there for them to go see.
Oh, for
How
sure.
are you guys spreading the word? And I hope this helps, my little piece in supporting this with buying some books, doing the interview. How else are you guys spreading the word? Is there something that you need to now tap into, or you need to be a little bit harder to get the word out? Because I can tell you, I usually try to go after people who I know, like, man, this is a great product. Why do they not have, 20,000 more people following, book sales that are completely sold out and they got to go back and
Yeah.
order more?
Yeah.
In my head, I'm thinking help get the word out so they don't have to do Kickstarter, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So how
Well,
are you guys going about that?
a lot of we have a the team we've built, and Alonge, I'm gonna let you speak to this as well, man, because I think to say that this is a small effort really doesn't even give enough credence to how many people we have that really truly believe not only in what we're doing but can see the long-term vision. But we are really doing so much across several different spaces to try and create community around this project, because what we believe is that community are the ones that demand that things like this need to be seen, and from that we can create the validity that I think a lot of these big studios need to see. And it's like, oh, you got to have a following, so on and so forth. But in general, we have our comic book, which is our first foray, even though this is a series and this is what we've started off with. The comic book was our first foray into getting them, more awareness into the series. And then we just finished doing our very first Comic-Con. Believe it or not, that was a success, and we connected with a lot of people. That also validated in big ways how much people want to see what we're bringing with this content. And that was the ATL Comic-Con that just passed. And then we have a new podcast we've just released, and that's
Okay.
we've been introducing people to all the wonderful actors that we have involved in the series, and we've got some heavy hitters, man.
Wow.
Yeah, we've got, and this is what I'm saying. Like, it's just not just the people behind the scenes. Myself being a director, Alonge being the co-director and the writer, and there's the actors who are involved, the people we have doing the music for the podcast. We've got a Patreon we've created to help also build community around what we're doing. All the different products that we have, be it, the t-shirts, the posters. I think you've seen a lot of that stuff. I mean, we got bookmarks, man. We trying to get the kids reading books again.
Right. That's
I mean,
like,
this is,
listen, that's it.
you know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's an effort in many ways, and we're continuing to refine that. So we have someone who's a part of our team that actually is focused on those partnerships and creating those relationships and finding different ways that we can continue to expand this brand so it does spread the awareness about what it is that we're doing. So yeah, I mean, between the Comic-Cons, our new podcasts, and just to give a nice shameless plug to the podcast, we've already released 2 episodes. The newest one comes out on Friday. So if you can't get a hold of that, go visit our Patreon. You can get to most of the stuff that we do through our website, theuptownchronicles.com. But yeah, we're just continuing to expand and listen to the people when they want to tell us how we can serve them better. What content do you want to see? Because again, in my eyes, that's really what should drive the efforts of anything creative you're trying to bring to folks. You want to know what they want to see.
Mhm.
But yeah, Alonge, anything else you want to add, brother? Because I can talk all day.
No. Again, just piggybacking on what you said. We're trying to build community, build fan base, organically from the ground up, and with the Patreon, with the Heading Uptown podcast. I think that's just another pillar of what we're doing, that we're trying to express what it is that we're all about, and what the Uptown Chronicles is all about. So we've got the comic book, we've got the podcast, we've got the trailer.
Yeah.
That's available on YouTube. You can go watch the 5-minute trailer.
Mhm.
So we just really hope that everything that we're doing is really something that the audience will like, appreciate, and continue to support.
Right. So let's talk about that elevator pitch. Why would someone spend their $7 on Uptown Chronicles and not their $4.99 with Marvel, DC, Image, Dark Horse, IDW?
Oh man, plain and simple, this is a comic that represents, us as Black families. It represents us as creatives who want to do things in a way that's a little bit different from how Hollywood tells us that things need to be done. In my eyes, not just supporting indie comics and indie productions, but looking more into what kind of, narratives are we telling in media right now, man? And us being that difference, that's what drives what we're doing and how we want to connect with people. And the messaging between everything is, you want to see representations of who we are as Black families and as Black people that are more representative of how we actually truly not only live currently, but where we want to move to. This is what the Uptown Chronicles is. And it brings it to you in a way that keeps you entertained, which is why, again, not just the Cosby Show, but the Boondocks, because I don't think there's been a lot of storytelling done in a way that captures, the levity of our culture in the way the Boondocks did. And there's so much about this series that does that. But then again, Black Panther, that being a part of this entire ecosystem, we haven't seen ourselves put at the forefront of technology in a way that Black Panther showed us. And so we want to take that even further. We want to embrace that even further. So this is an amalgamation of all of those things to show us that we can be more and to inspire us to do more. So that's where we feel our strength lies, is in the storytelling about who we can be and who we are.
Yeah.
And also just, to piggyback off that, I would tell anybody, who was considering buying it, Nas has a line where he says, no idea is original. There's nothing new under the sun. It's never what you do, but how it's done. So what we're doing, how we've done it, pick up the comic. I guarantee you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And I do want to comment on a few things, because when we hear the thing like Black family, sometimes that people think that it's a negative thing, but it's because we do have a lot of listeners who are white, Chinese, Japanese, Filipino, biracial, whatever the case is.
Absolutely.
This isn't a close the door, or it's about them. This is a open the door, because as you hear them talk about the Cosby Show, as you hear them talk about Boondocks, and don't get it twisted, right? The Boondocks was a family that was taking care, that was a grandfather taking care of his two grandsons because the mom and dad weren't there, and he stepped up. Don't get it lost with all the cursing and the silliness and all that. That's all comedy. Aaron Magruder was doing that in the comic strip before it became a TV show.
Right.
So this isn't, even though this is telling a story of a family, and the reason why you have to say a Black family is because we want to depict that you've been hearing something that has not been true, right?
Yep,
as we talked about the Black father, we know that's not true. That's just a narrative, a lie that's been told. But this opens the door for you to dive into something that you probably thought you couldn't because of the cover, but you got to go to it. And I've experienced this. My kid's book is called Daddy Do Right, and it's me on the cover with my two kids, right? But it isn't to be shut. And I have to tell people, right? This is for all fathers. This is a blueprint for fathers to talk about and how kids relate to their fathers and how they want their father to play with them outside, have imaginary play, keep them safe, love them, watch over them. So when you hear that, the Black family, that's not something to go, it's not for me. This is something to go, I might learn something and I might enjoy it, because at this point we are hearing a whole lot about 1,000 variant cover ratios. And I don't like this story and I don't like this story. And here is a story that I believe, and I'll hold on to it. Here's a story that I believe that once you dive into this story, and again, I've only read issue number 1. And I'm pretty good at it. Issue number 1 is stellar, and issue number 1 is well worth the $7 price tag. So I want to make sure everybody recognizes that and realize that we are putting our support behind this great creative team who's putting in the time, energy, and effort. So we want you to not only like, share, and subscribe this, but go to the podcast. You're going to go to their IG. You're going to go to their Facebook. We want you to spread the word so we get these brothers moving on up. And hopefully, as we move down the line, we will have a animated TV series, a full animated TV series, but not just one, more series, and then more titles and things such as that. So we move on. I live by the phrase. I'm a teacher in my day job when I have my Clark Kent glasses on. I'm a teacher. I teach 5th grade, and it's all about each one teach one.
Absolutely.
If we can spread that along. When you guys were at Atlantic Comic Con, you said you had a great reception. Did you guys happen to run into a guy named Willie Corday? He was the guy painting. I don't know. Did you get a chance to see him?
I don't think so.
Was he doing sketches of people?
Yes, they were like real life, like amazing sketches of people. That
Yeah. I didn't. So we didn't get a chance to really meet him, but I saw because he kind of had a line.
he had a line.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
I
I
think I
did.
remember
I
what you're
did
talking
see him
about.
a couple times
Yeah,
over the course of
he
the
does
regular.
like
He was
these.
busy.
He
Yeah.
does like these amazing sketches. I mean, it's amazing. He did a huge all the Black Power Rangers. He was
Oh,
he
I think I
dude
know.
was
Yeah,
and
yeah,
all
yeah,
the
yeah,
Power Rangers were signed. It was amazing. So
yeah.
that's my dude. He does all of my digital art, my digital coloring, digital inking for my kids' book, and he'll keep doing it because the dude he's on top. He's also I think he's associate professor at like Clark Atlanta and three other colleges
Love
there
it.
in
Oh,
Georgia.
wow.
Dude is on
Love it.
point.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any plans of going to Atlantic Comic Con? Have you heard about that one?
You said
No.
which one?
Atlantic Comic Con. It's in Norfolk,
Atlantic.
Virginia. Atlantic.
Oh, Atlantic.
Yeah.
It's like their first Black Comic Con.
Oh,
No.
wow.
Did not
Theirs,
know.
yeah. I guess the other one would be Blurred Con in DC.
Oh,
BlurredCon.
we did
Yeah.
hear about BlurCon. Yeah, we know about
Yeah.
BlurCon.
Okay. So do you guys have plans on venturing out, or is that like keep it local, keep it less expensive, and then let the book grow that way?
Well, I mean, I think we're open to just about everything that we could do to possibly get this in front of the audience that is going to continue to support. I think we actually applied to get into Dragon Con, and though we didn't get in Dragon Con, we'll still be present. Although that's one of the larger ones, we are looking to basically go where the people's gonna show up.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so as we continue to find out about them, like we found out about BlurCon, and then we found out about this one, Atlantic Comic Con, we continue to, expand our radar so we can make sure that we're connecting with as many people as we can. And to your point, man, like even being that while we were at ATL Comic Con, as we were speaking with people and we were saying things like, this is the Black family dynamics, you'd be surprised at the amount of people that were not actually Black people that were like, yes, we need more of that.
Yeah. It's a good, listen,
we need to see on the screen.
it's a good story. Like I want to be clear. I've read, I was actually going through some of my collection last night, and I pulled out that and put it somewhere. Now I can't put my hands on it. I've read quite a bit of #1 issues. I actually have Crescent City Monsters coming from what's the guy? I have that series coming in the mail later today. I'm going to do a review on that. And it's top notch, man. I put this up there with all of my other stuff, man. And I'm a big, Christopher Priest fan. I like Mark Millar. I read Jeff Lowe, Warren Ellis. I like the writer. I follow the writer for me, and for this tells me to keep following the writer. So I appreciate you guys. Listen, everybody, I appreciate the Uptown Chronicles joining me today. I thank all of you guys for joining us on this interview journey. Again, please remember your boy Cool Ty, Comic Book Hit List, like, share, subscribe. Also, as you see through the interview at the bottom, you will see all of the Uptown Chronicles contact information, the Uptown Chronicles website page, all of those things. Please patronize these brothers. Please make sure you spread the word. When you get your book, like I did, do a review, spread your word on whatever website or Facebook group or IG group that you're a part of. Also, as he mentioned, let's spread it to the young kids, man. It's a great story for young kids that want to pick up and read and see themselves, but also see something a little bit different. Yeah. We appreciate you. Thank you. Steven, thank you. Alonge, we appreciate it. Again, it is almost voting time for 2025. That is November 2025. It is important that we vote. We want to make sure that the people that we put into these elected positions actually do the things that we're supposed to do, not some of this horrible stuff that's happening right now that is illegal, against the Constitution, and breaking the law of the land. That's just exactly what it is, my people. And on that note, thank you again very much. Thank you guys for joining me. Man, peace out and have a great day.
Thank you for having us, brother. We really appreciate you, man.